Appreciate you guys showing up. Who needs more coffee? All right. Real quick question. How many of you are speakers? You get up in front of a crowd at least once or twice a year or more? Keep your hands up. Out of all you people, how many of you own your own microphone? That's a better average than normal. The reason that I'm doing this, I've been an audio tech for over 30 years. I've run the big boards that scare most people, all the way down to how are we going to get something hooked up so that we can at least hear you some way, somehow. And of course, there'll always be that person and the people in the back are going, "We can't hear you." Trust me, even when we're running microphones, I still get the people that will sit all the way in the back, and they'll be like, I can't hear you. I can't. I'm like, see those black boxes up in the corner? That's where the sound is coming out. If you could move up closer to that, you'd be able to hear. And they're like, but I don't want to sit up there. Then why are you here? You're either here to watch us talk or dance, and I'm not dancing for you tonight or today. But one of the reasons, actually the main reason that I am here is because David Snyder, I met him 4.5 years ago, totally by accident, total God thing. We're both members of an invite-only travel club. I showed up for a get-together on the wrong night. And I'm like, shit, now what I'm going to do? And he's like, hey, you've already set the time aside. I'm doing a meetup next door. You want to sit in? Had I known that it was hypnosis, I'd have bounced. Honest to God, I would have. And so I sat in, and I love learning stuff anyway. And I'm also one of the last to leave. Well, afterwards, David comes up and he goes, so what'd you think? I was like, that was frickin' awesome, but dude, your audio sucks. Those of you who know David a little bit know he might have a little bit of an ego. He's like, oh yeah. He was like, what? And that's where I came up with the title for today's talk, because I told him, dude, we're here to hear your voice, not watch you dance. If this was a tap dance recital, you're good. But other than that, you're about 2 steps above Charlie Brown's teacher. Have any of you watched his old videos? You can get through them, maybe. And so he asked me, he goes, okay, so what should I get? And I said, well, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, all right, order it. Next meetup, I brought it, set it up for him. And at the end, he comes up and he goes, wow, you're right. That does sound a lot better. Now I need someone to run it. Really? And that's how I ended up here, because once he got addicted to having good sound and people giving him good comments on his new videos and things of that nature, he demanded that I come here and run his AV for him during these talks. The other reason why it's important, when you're recording for a product, raise your hand if you think video is the most important part about it. Audio? Why?
Because if it doesn't sound good, they're not going to watch it.
Exactly. And remember back in the day, now, I don't know if anybody here is too young for this reference, but remember back when they had scramblers for certain channels? I know what channel you were thinking of, that a girl. But the cool part about it was you could see enough of the picture and the audio was still there. And you'd still watch the damn thing. But like you guys pointed out, if the video is awesome and the audio sucks, you're going to check out just like that. The other thing about having quality audio and video is now you can package your presentation multiple different ways. You can set it out as the video audio. You can also just take the audio portion out and now sell it as an MP3, audiobook, things of that nature. And you can also, if you have an outlet, do it as a transcript, if the audio is good enough, and multiple bundles as such. So these are where I'm very passionate about doing this stuff, but I've also attended a couple of talks about audio video, and some of them were so up over here that it was painful for me. Again, I got into audio video when I've been in it over 30 years, which means I started when I was, before I was born. And so I was also the one that would look at these large mixing boards and go, ooh, ah, knobs and buttons and buttons and knobs and knobs and buttons and knobs and buttons. And it wasn't until somebody took the time to invest in me and show me that it's just repeats of knobs and buttons. And it doesn't matter if it's one of those monster boards that I've run all the way down to something smaller than this. It's just like a car. An 18-wheeler, car, truck, whatever. Oh, I got a line out over there. Okay. Can we move it over to the board? Can we move it over to the board?
If you want to.
Please.
I don't want to interrupt your...
Oh, no. It's actually, the line is right out if you got the power to it.
Okay, sure.
Cool.
How many microphones does TJ need?
Right? This is for the recording, and of course, go figure. As soon as we set it up, the recording device that we had died. With AV, you learn to overcome, adapt, and improvise all the time. I'm going to improvise right here, because I'm going to have everything. See how we're doing on signal, nice and clean, cool. That's how I roll. I've got a couple of handouts here. And I do this simply so that, actually, that would be perfect. One of each. Breaks it down a little bit. And I'll give you a little bit of demonstration stuff on how these work, so that the reason I'm so adamant about this, again, is not so that you guys can become professional audio techs. This isn't a class for you to be able to jump in and take over the big boards and run sound for the local garage band and all the above. But what I want to do is I want to demystify what mixing boards, microphones, and applications are. I've got so many people that think, well, a microphone is a microphone is a microphone, and why does this one cost $15 and why is this one $1,500? They both do the same thing. Why is a Geo Metro a little cheaper than a Ferrari Enzo? Well, yes, they'll both get you down the road, but there's going to be a big difference in the performance. Let's see. Yep, 3 pages. The first one that I want to go over with you guys is the one that looks like this, the polar patterns on microphones. The reason I wanted to touch on this is so that you understand why I, for the most part, frickin' hate lapel mics with a passion, because I've been doing this for 30 frickin' years. Lapel mics typically, for the most part, will have what is called the Omni pattern. Now, the best way that I've learned to describe this is think of it as a balloon. And the balloon represents the area that the microphone pays attention to, listens to all the above. So an Omni is huge, round balloon. And especially if you're going to be using it in hotel situations or places where most of their in-home or in-house systems come out of the ceiling, well, you've got this thing clipped on, right? And it has a sound domain like this, and all of a sudden you walk over and all of a sudden, shit, now you're stuck. Even though you've got a wireless mic on, you have to stand in this little sweet spot where the speakers aren't touching. Second one, you move up to your cardioids, supercardioids, hyper. All of these, what they're showing in this graph, the gray area is it's the listening area for the microphone, or the sweet spot. What happens if you notice between the two, this bottom is dropped out. The advantage to that is now if you have a handheld as such, it's not hearing things at the bottom of the microphone. You could actually take this mic, and I'll demonstrate here quick. Check, 1, 2. If I take this mic, even though I'm in close proximity, notice that it's not hearing what I'm saying. If I drop it down here, you can hear some of it. Now, as an audio tech, every time we have a handheld mic for discussion, I'm like, I should have done a class quick. Because everybody's like, well, I'm holding the mic, so you should be able to hear me. And I'll hold it to my belly button because it's touching my body. And I have to go through class, and I've learned to do this with David's. What the trick to microphones, especially handhelds, picture if you took your fist in front of your face, and that's where you're holding your mic. And think in your head that the part that listens in the handheld is at the bottom, and you have to speak through the tube for the mic to be able to hear you. Now, you don't want to hold it back a little bit. And you'll also notice when you've got your high professional singers and they're going to belt it out and hit that really hard note, that they'll fade away so they can get a little extra presence there without overpowering. Help me remember that little part, because there's an adjustment on mixing boards that they've come up with to help that out. Now, for those of you that have a wide range of voice or very powerful voice, when we get to the mixing boards, the compressor part is going to be important for you. Also, with bringing your own mic, it'll be important for you to understand how mixing boards work, so that when you have a really efficient microphone, such as this one, and the dude that kind of knows what he's doing plugs it in, and all of a sudden you're really overpowering their system, you can go, dude, and you can walk up with confidence on almost any mixing board and go, which channel is mine, and be able to adjust it. The other option, I tell a lot of people, invest in a small mixing board, your own microphone, and travel with it. It doesn't have to be a monster one, even if it's only one channel because you're only running your microphone. You can run your mic into that small mixing board and take the line out from your mixing board into their system, which is what I have right here. I've got a full mixing board back there, but I'm running everything up here so that I can show you guys what I'm doing. Does that make sense? Any questions so far? Because I'm going to roll through this as quickly as possible.
So I can speak like this, but when I'm on stage, this is an angry voice for me. So I have a microphone that I am always using, and see, you have to tone it for my voice, which is now actually pretty scratchy from being here in the smoke. So I do always use a handheld. I don't use a lavalier being on stage because of what I do. And I actually find that I have to hold the mic closer than what you want people to hold the mic for. So you have to play around with it and make sure that you're getting the right sound out of your mic. One size doesn't fit all. And women's voices tend to be a little different tone than men's voices.
That'll be a good time for me to switch over to, come on. Switch over to this slide right here. If you reference the picture that has the mixing board in it, when I say that all of the stuff is repeated, they're all one of these called a channel strip. And it doesn't matter if it's the boards from here to the wall, or that little one, or if it's only a 2-channel. The number of channels is for how